Hey you guys, so I am back with another video answering some of the questions that I get asked really frequently about creativity, art, running a creative business, all that good stuff. So today I am talking about pricing your art. So this is one of those questions, once again, I get asked a lot. How do you know how to price your art? What's the best way? What are some tips or advice that I have? Those are the things that I've been asked kind of over and over again for many, many years. So I am going to do my best to talk about this. This is a tricky topic for me personally, but I feel like it's really important to put these conversations out there and kind of think about them and think what they mean to all of us individually, especially when it comes to money. So first and foremost, I always have to say I'm not an expert by any means. I am just a gal who's an artist, who's running a creative business, and I've been doing this for a really long time, which means I've had a lot of trial and error, I've had a lot of success and a lot of failure, and the result is I have all kinds of tips and information in my head that I think would be helpful to you guys out there. So I'm not an expert, I'm not a money expert, I'm not a build a business expert, I just know what has worked for me and what my own philosophies are when it comes to this stuff. So just a little background, I am a daughter of artists. So I grew up in a home where my parents are potters and they ran a business from home my entire life. So I grew up with entrepreneurs. It's something that's really familiar to me. There was lots of ups and downs within all of that. And then on top of that, I put myself through college with scholarships and worked on the side, and there were many times in that whole journey, both during college and after, like I didn't have a lot of money. There were many years as an art major in college where I did not have the money to buy the supplies on my supply list. Being a painting major is very expensive, just FYI. There's a lot of supplies to buy, and I was not alone. There were a lot of us who were kind of like those poor art students, but that was my experience both in college and after college for very many years. I did not have a lot of money. I did not have a lot of money to buy fancy art supplies. I didn't have a lot of money to, go to retreats or take classes or that kind of thing. I went to college, I did my schooling, and then had to work jobs while growing my creative business. So I feel like I have to put that out there just before I start talking about pricing art, because this is what I come at this topic with. I think when it comes to money, it's so subjective, it's so personal, and we all come at it in different ways. But for me, I would say I've spent more of my life struggling with money than I have comfortable. And just because I have a creative, successful business now, doesn't mean my mindset is actually fully in that. My mindset, I still think like a poor college student. Like when I go to buy supplies, I tell myself, no, don't buy the expensive stuff, Alyssa. And I have to remind myself, like, but you have the money to maybe buy a couple of those colors. You're fine, Alyssa. You don't have to buy the cheap stuff all the time. So it's something that I still carry with me to this day, even though I have a nice little business happening that I don't have to worry about how I buy supplies these days. So because of that, I kind of carry that experience and those experiences with me and have into the way that I choose to price the things that I personally sell. And I'm just gonna tell you, I think I'm gonna sound way different from many people out there when it comes to this topic. So you do not have to agree with me, but because I get asked this so often, I feel like it's important for you guys to hear me talk about it. So when it comes to art, pricing things can be kind of tricky. For those of us who make the art, our hearts and souls go into our creations. So they often feel like you can't even put a price on them because they are personal, they're your heart, they are time, sweat, tears, inspiration, all that good stuff. And there's a lot of people out there that really believe you need to price things as such, as that they a price that really encompasses the time and effort and inspiration and what you put into that. And I remember having a heated debate in college with one of my painting professors about pricing things. I, even back then, did not believe that art should be priced crazy high. It really bothered me. It's one reason why I have never enjoyed the gallery world, the gallery side of fine art, because oftentimes things are very, very expensive. And growing up the way that I did and knowing what it's like to struggle financially, I always kind of carried this philosophy with me of like, why do you just have to be rich in order to buy art to hang on your wall? Why can't people of all different economic status be able to buy great art and put it on the wall? And I got into a fight with my painting professor about this, and it was actually a really great debate, and a lot of people ended up getting into it and talking about it, and it was really, really interesting, and it's kind of stuck with me my entire life, because in that moment I feel like I grounded my feet in like my conviction and my opinion on that everybody, no matter how much money you make or don't make, deserves to have creativity in their life, deserves to have art hanging on their wall, deserves to, I don't know, explore what it's like to purchase art. I don't think it should just be for people that have a lot of money. And this was back when I was 18, and I'm 42 now, and I've kind of carried this philosophy from that debate with my painting professor with me my entire career as an artist. So here's what I think when it comes to pricing art. For me and my business and my philosophy, I feel like I want as many people out there to be able to take my classes, to buy my art. I want to even try to put as much free stuff out there as possible, because I view creativity and my passion and love for making things, for drawing, painting, crafting, being wacky and weird with my creativity. I view that as something that I'm supposed to share. I don't view it as something I'm just gonna hold tight and give to the highest bidder. I view it as something that I want to both offer at a price, but also put out there for free. So that is why I share a lot of inspiration on my blog. A lot of the stuff on my blog is free. Free ideas, free stuff, free downloads, all kinds of free inspiration, simply because I feel like it's just really important to be generous when you are a creative individual. And I feel like it's my mission in life to inspire people. I want you guys to be inspired, and I don't want you to always feel like you have to have that pressure to buy it or pay for it. So that is why I try to keep my prices as reasonable as possible when I am offering things for sale, whether it's a service like an online class or if it's actual art. And I've been doing this my entire art career, and everything I read out there says I'm doing it wrong. But everything I know from my own experience is that I've built a really successful business on this philosophy, and I'm doing very well in my business. So everything that says I need to price my things higher, that people need to pay what they're worth, that when you price them low, you're not giving yourself the credit that you deserve. Everything that I've done in my business doesn't tell me that. So I have figured out, for me, my own pricing philosophy looks less like a formula and more like kind of thinking a little bit with my heart and the experience of being poor that I've carried with me my entire life. So because my formula is a little bit more heart-based in my pricing, I've had to really do a lot of thinking and figuring things out, because I'm running a business. I support our family with my business, and I have to make income. So over the years, I've kind of found this balance between offering different services and products at different prices. So I have developed kind of this pricing system for myself that I have everything from free. So free stuff on my blog, free coloring downloads, free tutorials, free tips, things that I probably could turn into a class for profit, but I want a place for people to come that literally don't have any money to spend on anything that I offer. And I'm okay with that. Please take all the free creativity and inspiration from my blog that you want. It makes me so happy to know that that's happening. But my scale goes from free to some cheap stuff. And those are my smaller classes that I have priced at $15. Oftentimes they're on sale for $10. I know that a lot of people can afford that. And then my prices go all the way up. So they go all the way up to $50, and then you can buy bundles of classes for even more money. So I've developed this pricing scale that for me fits with my philosophy and my values and a piece of what is really important to me as an artist, and that is that everybody should be able to afford art. I just travel with that throughout my life, and I'm not dropping it, I'm not raising prices, I'm not doing anything different because that is just a piece of my heart. And I would rather lose money than kind of turn my back on that philosophy for myself. Okay, so let me give you just a few tips when it comes to thinking about pricing that art or your creative products. The first tip is really figure out what your personal philosophy is when it comes to selling things and what kind of customer base you are looking to attract or sell to. Whatever that route is when it comes to pricing your art, I think you really have to do some hard thinking. Keep in mind you can change it at any point, but before you dive into pricing that art and doing what everybody else is doing, I think it's really important to figure out where your values lie on that scale, what you're looking to do with the money you make. Is this a side gig? Is this something just to make a couple of extra $100 a month here and there? Or are you just wanting to go full bore, I want this to be supporting my family type of thing? And you have to figure out what that looks like with your pricing and taking that time to really think about your own feelings about money and your own feelings about art and how art and money work together is incredibly important. Please don't just do what everybody out there is telling you to do when it comes to pricing. Really search your heart. Art is a completely different thing, in my opinion, from business and business coaching and maybe taking a class about, something real literal. Art is like about heart and soul and your gut, and when you're making it, that's what's going on. You're using those things. So don't just do what everybody else is telling you to do with those prices. Really search your heart and your soul and your gut when it comes to selecting prices for that art. And that might mean pricing things really high. It doesn't always mean pricing them lower, but taking that time to really develop your own value system when it comes to money and art together is incredibly important before you put a price on anything that you make. Number 2, do some research. See what people are selling their stuff for. Get on Etsy, get on anything online. Research your favorite artists. See what they are offering their services, their artwork for. I think it's nice to know what is going on in your world, in your art world, or what you're trying to sell to, just to have an awareness of what the standard is, what's going on. That doesn't mean you have to follow it though. You can do whatever you want, and you can change things at any point. You can higher your prices at any point. You can lower them at any point. You can offer new products at a completely different price at any point. But doing that research and really having a good understanding of what is going on in the art world or the handmade world, what's going on online versus how much things are being sold for in a retail space is great information to have in your head before you go setting your own prices. Okay, you guys, so my last tip is to actually crunch your numbers, figure out what your overhead is for the art that you make or the handmade goods that you're creating. This is going to help you really figure out how much you need to price things at in order to create profit off of your art. I figured this out really early on, in the middle of being very financially struggling. I think back when I was in college, when I really began showing and selling things, that was at a point in my life where I had the least amount of money, but I was still making art and I still wanted to sell it. So I had literally a budget of zero overhead. Like I had very little money to spend on supplies to make art, but I was still selling stuff. And I pretty much carried this with me through all of my different chapters and seasons in life. I built my business around not needing a lot of overhead to create the things that I put out there to sell, to the services that I offer in teaching. There's not a lot of cost that goes into my own creations and the things that I'm putting out there. There's a lot of time, and I've had to price my time out to make it worthwhile, but I basically built my business around not needing a lot of money in order to make things or create things. That doesn't mean you guys need to do it, but for me, it's what worked. I was building my business at a very early age, as well as like actually within college. I was trying to figure out where my art would fit, how I could sell art. And through a big portion of my life, I just did not have the budget or the overhead to be able to put all kinds of money into things. So that is why I've been able to keep my prices low, is because I'm not paying people to film my classes. I'm not paying people to edit them. I'm not spending lots of money and investing or needing a lot of money to put into the things that I create and share. And this has been built into my business. And this is actually the way that I'm able to keep my prices low or reasonable, simply because I don't need a lot of money to do what I do. I keep it simple. It's why my filming is simple, the way I share things is simple, the platforms I use are simple. I don't want to have to need or have a huge budget for what I create. And that has been kind of written in or a big piece of how I run my business, how I choose to price things, and why I'm able to price things sometimes lower or just a little bit more reasonable. So understanding the cost of your supplies, of your time, of what it takes to what goes into the things that you create is going to better help you kind of break down what you feel like your art is worth, how you can make profit off of it, and how you can set those prices. And again, I'm not going to, and I'm not in this video, my intent for making it was not to tell you guys how to price your stuff, but to give you kind of some food for thought, some things to think about. You do not need to price things the way that I have or work in this low overhead budget. I'm just kind of pulling the curtain back on the way that I have kind of run my business and the way that I look at money and pricing. But you really do have to take time to break it down, figure out what your time is worth. What do you want to get paid for sewing the things you make or painting what you make or whatever it is you're doing? How much do you want to make per hour or per piece? Break down how much supplies are costing you to create the thing that you create. And being aware of all that is going to really, really help you set those prices. Because at the end of the day, if you are wanting to sell your art, you're obviously wanting to make a profit. You are wanting to actually have some money in your pocket. So you've got to kind of break things down and figure out what approach you can take to get to that point.